Good morning, Crystal Palace. Good morning, Crystal Palace. And welcome to the Upper Norwood Library Hub's Library Lunch. My name's Galina.Rin. I am standing in. I'm not really standing in anymore. We just do it between us. Me, Eleanor, and Kat, we just host between us. And today is their day off and my day on. I guess that's it. This is our little show to bring you news from your local community, keep us all connected, tell you about businesses and generally what folks in the local area are up to. Oh yeah! And today we have a local celebrity. He won't. I don't know if you'll mind me saying this. He's kind of like a half rock star, actor, musician, writer. He sells food in the food market. He works in a toy shop. He's good at everything. I think it's great at everything. Please welcome to our thing. Let me get the right button going. Yay! It's Callum Patrick Hughes. Hello, how you doing?
Hello, I'm very well. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for the lovely introduction. Local celebrity. I mean, I think infamous definitely in the area, but celebrity might be a bit of a push.
Well, you're literally the face of all our local TV at the moment. You know, all the local live shows. It's you. So I think celebrity is fine.
It's delightful. I was in the toy shop on Friday in Papagoya, and I work Fridays in the toy shop, which I love, and I haven't done it for a couple of years, but because of lockdown, Emma, who runs it, was stranded in Scotland and said, "Callum, can you come back and help with a couple of shifts in the toy shop?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm an artist, so I've got no work right now." And it was great fun, but someone came in and they bought a toy off me, and then just before leaving went, "Oh, by the way, I really enjoyed the Crystal Palace Festival. It's great to see you broadcasting from the library." And I thought, I'm being recognised. So maybe you're right in a way.
Yeah. I'm the only one who has not yet been recognised, I have to say. Mostly because I've been behind the camera or I'm wearing the wig. And I don't wear the wig when I'm out in the street. So I think people should, get down with my authority, quite frankly.
I mean, I think they do. that's a nice South Park reference there as well.
Amazing. So I'm just going to welcome Dennis, who has joined us, and Hester and Dennis. If you're out there in internet land, you're going to have to hit us a like, a heart, subscribe to the channel if you're on YouTube, all of those good things that you need to do just so that we know that you're there. The cheapest thing you can do is just hit a heart, because then that'll give us organic engagement so we don't have to spend money on adverts, because who wants to spend money on Facebook adverts? Nobody. All right. So what have you been... Well, I don't know anything about you. So what were you doing before all the reasons that have happened?
So I am a bit of a kind of jack of all. I started life as an actor. My dad was an actor, so I kind of grew up in the theatre, and I went to drama school, and I studied in London and America. And then I went into rep theatre, which doesn't really exist anymore, but I was quite lucky to work in a theatre in Essex. And it was an actor-musician company, so all the actors would play all the instruments. So if you did a musical, you might be playing a character and having a song, but you'd also be playing all the score yourself on stage, which was great fun, but also really hard because you have to learn all the script and all the music. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I kind of set up my own theatre company where we did actor-musician adaptations and new writing, because I really love playwriting. I did that at drama school as well. So now I was kind of like an actor and a writer and a musician. And I wasn't really sure what I was going to do, but I just kind of took jobs that I liked and was interested in. So I just kind of do all three, depending on what it is. But before lockdown, I was working on a new musical that I'd written with my co-writer, who you would also know if you've seen any of the library concerts, because he's David. He's also the co-host of the West End Live at the library concerts. And we had this musical scheduled to premiere, which was really cool, at the Turbine Theatre, which is a brand new home of musical theatre in Battersea, kind of taking part in Battersea Power Station.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
And then the lockdown happened, and suddenly we had a cast of people, and we had a little bit of money, and it was only going to be a kind of week's worth of performances, but that kind of all went by the wayside. And we thought, you spend months and months trying to get people excited about your project. It finally comes together. And then obviously the pandemic kind of put a stop to that. But it was quite good in a way, because what it gave us the opportunity to do was really think about arranging the songs and orchestrating them. And so my friend Kev, who you've also worked with, he put together some arrangements, and then we put some songs together and had it recorded in kind of like remote recording studios, collaborating with people, across the other side of the country. And now we've kind of got a really, really strong script and music together. So that hopefully should be coming together for a little kind of private rehearsal kind of later on this year. And then we'll be taking it out to the world at some point in February. So that was the first project that was kind of put a stop to.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully that will come back.
Yeah, we had the same kind of problem with the shows that we were going to have at the library, because we were going to have a projection mapped animation thingy going on, and all that's been taken away. All gone away now until May, but it'll be back soon, I'm pretty sure. So
it's tough.
Is this your first production that you've created?
So no, I as just a playwright, I'd never written a musical before. We just wrote kind of hour and a half long plays that would be about whatever subject we were interested in. So it could be like a little political play that would go on above a pub somewhere in London, and a few people would see it. But it were little passion projects. And then a little while ago, about 3 years ago, I was unemployed, and my friend rang me. And said, "I'm calling you from China." And I said, "What are you doing in China?" And he said, "Oh, I'm teaching musical theatre to some of the young people over there with a company called UKCI, who are all about kind of helping China build its first ever arts curriculum. So it's about transferable skills and creative problem solving. China to have a particular focus on the arts in their school system, but they realized it's the quickest way to make managers out of people in terms of creative problem solving, which I find really interesting. It's like another reminder that actually, the reason why all art subjects are at school isn't to turn everyone into artists. It's because these skills are really useful in our day-to-day lives. And he said, anyway, do you want to come over and help write a show? So we went over there and we lived there for 4 and a bit months. And we wrote a show from scratch all about these kids' lives. And since then, we've written kind of 3 kids' musicals, for these young people. And it was kind of after that, really, that made David and I look at each other and think, hang on a minute, we could write a proper grown-up musical here. And it's been really, really fun kind of learning those skills. Because I think you'll agree, like, just because I play quite a few instruments, that doesn't necessarily make you a composer of a certain style of music, Yeah. And you can write songs and you can write plays, but writing a musical is a whole kind of new thing. So I've really enjoyed stretching those muscles and discovering what that's like.
That's really cool. And to go to China as well, it's quite a difficult market to break into. I myself, I'm trying to get stuff done in China as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
what kind of things?
Well, I had a booking agent came to me saying that she wanted to push me to Chinese promoters, but I had to be on Weibo.
Mm-hmm.
And for folks who don't know what Weibo is the Chinese Facebook, and getting on there is quite a thing if you don't speak Chinese, or if you don't read Chinese at least. I guess it's Mandarin, isn't it? Probably.
Yeah.
So I had someone who was going to translate all my albums, and then I've got a friend who teaches in Beijing who was going to put me on his YouTube channel, because it's hard to get a YouTube channel that will play in China unless you've gone through a whole identification process as well. So all that was just before lockdown, and then it's been put to one side for the time being, because I'm not going to China anytime soon.
I had a WeChat account, which is like the phone, it's like a WhatsApp. But I think it also works with Weibo as well. But I haven't used my WeChat for a long time. But yeah, it's very interesting in terms of the way we would normally connect, and shorthand is totally different technologically over here than it is to there. And I suppose it can remind you that whilst China is outward looking to the world in a way that it wasn't for a long time, it still does things very differently.
Yeah. Oh, that is, yeah.
And it was
It's a nice big market. It needs to be looked into more, far more. I'm just going to welcome some folks who have joined us. Nick Westerby has joined us. Hello, Nick. These are Eleanor's folks from the choir. Pauline Byrne has joined us too. And who was over here? Nuno. I hope I pronounced that right, Nuno. Thank you for joining us all. That's lovely. If you have any comments or questions for Callum, please drop them in the comments and I will try and pick them up from whatever social media channel you're currently watching on. Hooray! I see you've given me you've given me a tag for a podcast. So tell what, which has a really great name.
So it's interesting. I do a little bit of comparing and performing, and I'm used to kind of being in front of people. A friend of mine said, "Oh, you should really do a podcast." And I kind of said, "Oh, well, everyone's doing podcasts nowadays, and actually, to do it right, you've got to be really good. It can be quite." It's a genre of itself. And then I got asked to guest on a couple of podcasts, which I really enjoyed. A great one also made by a couple of Crystal Palace locals called Song by Song podcast. And that is the entire back catalogue of Tom Waits music. And they do one episode on each song.
What? I have a friend in Germany who would just die to listen to that. Oh, he's the biggest Tom Waits.
It's done by Martin Zolswick, who's one of the great podcast producers in this country. He has British Podcast Awards coming out of his bum. He's also worked on Maddie's Sound Explorers, which is a really popular podcast for young people talking about music and how music's found in nature. Really clever science podcast. But Martin Zolswick and a friend of mine, Sam Pay, who lives just down the end of Church Road, and they started this podcast. So I did I guested on over the years about 8 episodes, and it's really cool the type of people who come on the show because it's quite international now. And anyway, I thought, well, I'm no kind of expert in any kind of subject to kind of get highfalutin and expert about, but my friend David and I are huge fans of the BBC 90s show Jonathan Creek. Do you know it?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Alan Davies and all that, Caroline Quentin, and we loved it as kids because we're both again, once you work in a lot of the arts, and I don't know, you might find this as well, some of the kind of magic of theatre or live music, once you understand it a bit, you always look at it as a professional and become a bit more of a professional appreciator.
Yeah.
But with magic, I don't know anything about magic. But I love magic shows, and I love trying to find out like how it's done, or talking to magicians and seeing what they will tell you before they really, reveal the secret. So the idea of like comedy drama filled with magic as a kid, I just adored. So David and I decided to go back and watch the entirety of Jonathan Creek from the beginning. On a weekly basis, and we did this just for us. This is a completely free podcast, and actually, do you know Chris from the library, Chris Neath?
Yes.
He's a big fan of Jonathan Creek, and turns out he's been enjoying the podcast too. Innocent Gun have been talking to us about the fact that they've been following the podcast along, and we just finished it. So we've been doing this for a long time. But we've now done every single episode that Jonathan Creek that was ever made of Jonathan Creek, and at some points we realised that it wasn't quite as good as we remember when we were 10. But it's great fun, and it's quite nice seeing the British kind of cultural landscape of primetime TV and what that meant to so many people back in the day. Because it's different now, isn't it, with all the different platforms we watch things on.
Yeah, like I guess when I went to school, if Jaws was on the TV the night before, everyone had seen it. Everyone watched it because it was on, like we had 4 channels. This is even before Channel 5 or whatever that home and away program is. I don't even own a TV anymore, so I don't remember half of these things.
It's amazing. So it was really cool kind of going back and watching this. But obviously, the more frustrated we get with maybe some bad writing or continuity, names just changing or addresses being completely different. There seems to be no one paying the proper attention to the filming. And so it's a kind of a loving lambast of something that means an awful lot to us, but also isn't as good as we remember. So you can check that out it's called Podcast Macabre. We've gone up to something like 600 listeners a week.
Wow,
which is crazy for a random hobby. We've got most of our listeners are from France and America and the UK, and people of all different ages. So you can check that out by going to @Macabre Podcaster. There's an E on each one, just as a little nod to the Jonathan Creek theme tune, the Dance Macabre.
Amazing.
So we were kind of winding that down, and then lockdown happened. And suddenly David and I went, well, we've got a lot more time on our hands because all of our work involves working with people, whether it's working with young artists, working with kind of contemporaries on this new musical. So we decided to do one called Any Requests. And so every Thursday we release a podcast, and you can sponsor us. You can do a Patreon where you pay us £5, Rin, and I would do a podcast on any subject of your choosing.
And how often do you get a subject that you feel confident in doing a podcast for?
I mean, like, never. They're all subjects or things that I've often never really considered. For example, we had one on the CIA, Charles Manson and the Secret 60s. I had to read an entire book for that podcast. It took about like 2 weeks preparation. One of them was on your favorite intros and outros of music. So that was a really fun one, going through different kind of tracks that mean things to you. But also some of them are bad movies. Quite a lot of them are bad movies or bad TV series that they want us to talk about, much in the same way we would about Jonathan Creek. And just get really pedantic about it. I think the more pedantic we are and the more kind of picky we are with a TV show or a program, people seem to really enjoy that. So it's bizarre.
People like something that they can argue with. If everyone's just getting online and being very nice to each other, then there's not really much tension there to pull it together. Eleanor's joined us, and she says she loves Jonathan Creek, so she's definitely going to check out your podcast.
Check out the podcast. We've got how many? We've done all the episodes now for the Jonathan Creek, so it's quite a big load. We just released one today, a new Any Requests podcast on a film called Ski Patrol. It's a 1990s film. Have you seen it?
No, but I think there's many tropes about this. Is this the one where they have to fight for the mountain or something?
Yeah, you're right. They have to fight for the mountain. It's a terrible movie.
I've never seen it, but I've seen Sunny in Philadelphia did it. Family Guy did it.
Right. Okay.
All these. Yeah. Also, I've never seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but I only know it from trope. I only know it from like people doing parodies of it.
Yeah. There's tropes in it. I mean, Ski Patrol. I can't believe I've never seen it. A bit more well known in the States, but we just released an hour and 45-minute podcast trying to understand the film Ski Patrol. But it's good fun. Also, Crime Traveller, another 90s British series, a bit like Doctor Who and Jonathan Creek put together. Really good if you're into time travel. We've also done ones on Quantum Leap, which is another. I mean,
my favorite.
That was just so much fun because it's brilliant, right?
Yeah, I have to go back and watch the whole thing because I have stories going up to comic and album number 7, and one of them will be a Sam Beckett story. And I won't say too much about it, but every one of my stories ends with humanity being wiped out completely, and Sam Beckett is going to end humanity.
Oh, he'd end humanity.
Yeah. So
I feel like Sam Beckett would have had to go on a bit of a journey.
Well, see, the point is he has to jump. He loops so much, right? He loops so much that he just gets done with it. He's completely done with it. And the only way he can stop jumping is to just wipe out, make sure humanity never existed. And that's his only way out.
Well, he does.
I do love it though. Yeah.
I do feel for him. I also love that apparently he's intentionally named after Samuel Beckett, the playwright, the Irish existentialist playwright. And I love that idea that if you're going to do something about time travel and someone getting home. Like maybe that's the sci-fi Samuel Beckett would have, written if he was making TV in the 80s.
Yeah, maybe that's a great show. Is that on any streaming services at the moment? Where did you
So
watch it?
that podcast Macabre, you can get, that's the Twitter handle there, Macabre Podcaster, but you can get us on Spotify, iTunes, Pocket Cast, all the different anyway you get your podcasts, basically. Overcast, Anchor, we're on as well, Castbox. So if you search for podcast Macabre, the Jonathan Creek podcast, just remember the E on the one podcast, and you will be able to get both our Jonathan Creek podcast and also all the Any requests. And if you feel really specific, or you have a friend who's got a real love of a subject, give us a $5 and we will do a thorough, at least an hour and a half podcast on any subject of your choosing. It's kept us busy during the lockdown.
I bet. I've just added your Patreon to the chat, so it's in there.
Thank you very much.
That's
indeed.
all cool.
Great.
So I guess we'd be amiss if we didn't talk about the live shows that you've done and maybe some other stuff that we've got going on. So do you want to tell us how you got involved with Crystal Palace Festival, for example? Because that's obviously the biggest one the town has had.
Yeah. So I obviously have been around Crystal Palace for a little while, and I've been working involved in the market and little kind of projects like that. So I know a few people, but I'd never been involved in the festival normally, because it's quite difficult, and as a performer as well, it's quite tough to commit to anything long term, because often you say yes to something and then 4 weeks later you get a job that takes you away to a different part of the country, a different part of the world. But then Noreen approached me and said, would you be involved in any of the Crystal Palace Festival this year? And I said, yeah, I would actually. I'm not planning on going anywhere. That would be great. And then obviously the lockdown happened, and there was no kind of discussion about that with regards to the fact that it might not happen. Then they were going to put it in September. Then obviously they decided that wasn't going to work, and obviously they were right. 40,000 people in the Crystal Palace Park wouldn't have been good.
No.
So, but then you've also got this thing that if Crystal Palace has fought for this festival for years and years and years and built it up and got the community together, and it's difficult to get right, and it's difficult to build the following it has. If you don't do the festival one year, those familiar with Arts Council applications and the way in which funding works, it means you really got to struggle to get it the next year if you kind of stop that momentum. And Noreen, who runs the festival, is really savvy and smart about that. And she said, right, well, it might not work, but I think we've got to try, and got to try and get it online. Let's adapt. And so they did. And as you know, and many watching, I'm sure, be aware that we did manage to do a broadcast from the library. And we kind of turned 2 rooms upstairs in the library into 2 little studios. And we had live acts throughout the day, films that people had made, DJ sets that took people long into the night. They were all live streamed via the Upper Norwood Library Hub. And I was lucky enough to be asked to compare and kind of present that with the wonderful Helen Dessy, otherwise known as Lady Crimpeline. And the 2 of us kind of guided everyone through the day, or tried to. But yeah, I'd never done anything like live TV before. It was really, as a presenter, certainly, it was really interesting, new territory for me.
And now you're a dab hand, quite frankly, because you've done 3 live shows, haven't you?
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, we did that, and I had so much fun, and it was really, really... it was just really joyous to be in a room full of artists and technicians and everyone working together and using their skills. And Daniel and yourself, who were involved in putting on the musical theatre concerts, were kind enough to ask me to help with that as well. And David and I, both being musical theatre writers, as I kind of explained earlier, love musical theatre and have a great love of being in rooms with people like that. So it's a real privilege for us to be able to introduce each act. And I think the concerts have been really well received.
Our ones have been pretty good. To the fact that we've got a third one coming up. We've actually got
Yeah.
four coming up, but another two. Sorry, but just before we go into that, I will say hello to Sarita has joined us, as well as I saw two other people, Osmond and Sylvia. Hello, everybody. Hello. So we have another project coming up. Another one. There's another one coming. We'd be remiss for not even mentioning it. Do you want to tell us what the next one is likely to be?
So apparently details are coming, maybe even as quickly as tomorrow. But I've been given permission to start spreading the rumor that there's going to be a special Halloween-themed musical theatre night, and it's going to be fairly family-friendly, much like the Finding Wonderland concert that we did a couple of weeks ago was. So something really nice that, a bit like what we were talking about earlier, something that people can actually gather around and come together and watch together, whole families of different ages. And there'll be something for everyone in there. Nice bit of humour. I'd be surprised if we didn't have some special Addams Family songs in there. I'd be surprised. But more details on that are going to launch very, very soon. But I'm really excited. That'll be on Saturday the 31st, obviously, of October, Halloween.
Amazing. We have a question from the floor, actually, from Eleanor.
Hey, Eleanor.
Hey. Do you have any choral songs you'd like recorded by a local community choir?
Ooh, this is a really good point. I hadn't even thought of that. Okay, let me have a think and get back to you, because there are definitely some songs, especially when you're thinking about musical theatre, where you want a lot of voices and the power of lots of voices together. And having that would be really cool. Yeah, absolutely. Eleanor, I'll have to give you an email about that. Thank you so much.
I'm using Eleanor and the whole choir to do all my backing vocals for my new album, which will be out on May 2021. Oh, yes,
oh my
indeed.
Goodness, that's incredible.
Yeah, so the first time, my first album, I did a choir, but I did I recorded people separately. So the most that was ever in the same room with each other was two people. And I pieced together every single voice that went onto that album. And this time I don't really want to do that, because there's a real power when you get people in a room and the reverb in the room's good. And it's just, there's a natural feel about it. I'd actually like to record stuff in a church rather than, do a dry version where there's no reverb, and then, do something within a church where it just sucks out the sound out of the individual. It's really cool.
There is something quite magical. The other project I've been doing, which is not anything to do with my own writing, but it's another writing duo called Sarah and Giles. And they, over lockdown, put a call out on Twitter saying they're looking for a male kind of musical theatre actor who was more of a singer-songwriter. Because my voice is a bit rock and roll in comparison to the angelic musical theatre voices. So I don't do a lot of what we call legit musical theatre. And they wanted someone to play a kind of singer-songwriter-y type who drank a bit and smoked a bit. And they were going to do this, but again, because of lockdown, their whole production was shut. So they said, well, let's record the album remotely. And it's a two-hander, a guy and a girl. And so I've been recording that album, which comes out at the end of September. It's called Fallen Angel. And I'll put that up on Twitter and things as well. So if you want to know about this new musical, Fallen Angel, it's kind of a really sweet story about this struggling singer-songwriter and something a little bit magical that happens with him on a trip to LA. And over the course of it, you get 10, I think there were 12 incredible brand new songs written by this writing duo. But Sarah also, Giles is a well-known playwright, but Sarah's written she's like got awards for her pop songs. And also any 90s fans out there, Atomic Kitten, Danny Minogue, she's like written for loads of people. So there's a real kind of nice vibe.
It's amazing. Eleanor has left you her email address in the comments of the thing, so I will just copy that over to you for sure. And Sarita, I hope I've pronounced that right, is saying that St. John's Church is lovely for recording the acoustics. It's a great acoustic venue, and that's down the bottom of Sullivan Hill. And they were on with us not so long ago, actually, talking about their drop-in centre, because they give food to folks, which is lovely.
It's amazing what they've been doing over the course of the lockdown. And I think I love Crystal Palace as a place and as a community. But I have to say the pandemic has really highlighted how much people are prepared to actually put their money where their mouth is and really invest in projects like that. And St. John's Church have been incredible.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much every other podcast we talk about how great the community has been coming together and getting involved. I mean, obviously, people coming on to our live stream and like teaching cross stitch when they didn't know how to cross stitch. Alice, you're awesome. And also Eleanor and Nicola. And Nicola doing a 10-minute meditation session every morning of lockdown. It was just amazing. I mean, it's just amazing that people got involved. Yay! Well, Callum, we're pretty much at the end of our time. It's been a very great chat. I'd like to go on more, but we've literally run out of time. So I hope you will come back and join us on another time. Perhaps when you've got a next show to publicize. I guess that's
if I've got something to plug, maybe when the album's out at the end of the month, I'd be happy to come back. Thank you so much for having me on, and thank you for doing this as well. I think it's a great way of keeping people connected.
Hey, man, no worries.
And not just during a lockdown or a pandemic, but in general.
Yeah, well, it's the only thing that's kept me sane. I can tell you that for now. I'd stayed in bed under a duvet for 4 months if I hadn't been doing this. That's great. So Rita is saying that the Crystal Palace Library Hub rocks. Yeah, you're right there, love. You are correct. Lucinda has just joined us as well. Hooray! If you're watching out there in internet land, there are 5 of you currently watching, so I know you're there. Make sure you hit a heart and a like and leave a comment, because this gives us our organic engagement, which pushes the videos out to more people, and then we don't have to spend any money on ads because we want to put it back into the library. On that note, I'm just going to run through our normal little endings that we have here. If you'd like to be on the show, we are always looking for more folks. I think we're actually quite full this week, but I don't think there's anybody in for next week. So if you'd like to join us, I'm just putting my email address in there. It's galina.rin@unlt.org. I'm not going to spell my own email address wrong. If you've got a business or a charity, or even if you're local and you just want to come on and have a chat, I'm considering having a little bit of a free Friday where people can just come on and talk about anything, because I think that might push us into some interesting conversation, especially if you wanted to talk about traffic, for example. Although we'll probably stick to the Crystal Palace local page rule of no helicopters. No helicopters. Thank you very much. What else have we got? Oh, we've still got this. We're still collecting names and folks for the All Alone Together project. This is a very short questionnaire. It's on our website. You answer 4 questions, and then you're asked if you would like to be interviewed by Eleanor, who will then talk to you for probably about an hour or so about how your family, yourself, your business, all the stuff has been affected by lockdown. The information from this is tallied and given to the local service providers, who can then see where the lack in service has affected people. We'll also be making it into a podcast, because everyone's got a podcast. Yay! And our podcast will be highlighting the different ways in our community has got through lockdown, and we have interest from British Library to archive that as well. So it's all to play for on that. If you have technical issues, or you have any folks in your house, next door neighbor, your aunt, your uncle, your dog, okay, maybe not your dog because they need a thumb, but if they want to learn how to use Zoom or use online banking, or how to shop at Sainsbury's, I don't know, whatever they want to use the internet for, then you can get in contact with Casper, who his phone number's there, his email address there, and he will happily teach you all how to use Zoom and everything else. The last thing I have to tell you, yay, is that we have collected around about £1,500 from donations, from live stream donations that goes directly to the library. The link for those donation links are at the bottom of the comments. You can see it. What side is it? What is it? It's that side. It's that side. There's a box right there. Callum, you can't see it, but it's there. And it says £1,098 that we have raised so far. But actually, there's more than that, because we get money in from different locations. So if you would like to support the library, like to keep the library lights on and the doors open, then please, if you see something you like on our live stream, please just donate whatever you can. It can be as little as £1. We don't care. We'll take your money. No worries there. Okay, I'm gone. Callum, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much for joining us.
much.
It's been so much
Great.
fun. We are going to be back tomorrow. Eleanor, I believe, is hosting. I want to say that. I don't know because we have a meeting tonight and I haven't arranged it, and I don't even know who's on the rest of the week because we haven't had the meeting yet. Amazing. So I hope you all have a really nice day. Do whatever you can to get through the day without being an idiot to everybody else, and I'm sure that's the right way of living. All right, guys, see you all later. Everybody have a nice day. All right, bye-bye.